I heard that your body is an archive for peace, joy, beauty, love, and wealth. So, where your body was once used as a battlefield, as a sacrificial altar, and as a courtroom, where once upon a time your pain and suffering were archived and constantly referenced and reinforced, is no more. My name is Solarah. I am here to go into, like a deeper understanding of what this download is showing. It is something that comes off of the heels of another download I received about a week or two ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago. It was in the run up to, um, it was in the run, no, maybe a week ago. It was in, either way, it was in the run up to the Virgo full moon, the lunar eclipse. So probably 2 weeks ago, I received this download, and it was speaking about how the Divine Mother is reclaiming the fullness of her body, where she's been binded, and in doing so, allowing for us to do the same. And so, when you're dealing with Virgo energy, you are dealing with so much to do with the body, right? Um, on a more mundane or surface level, it's to do with our routines, it's to do with our health, it's to do with our diet, our nutrition, and these things are important. But more importantly, or I should say equally as important, are the invisible, silent contracts that have been made in and through our bodies. And, one very obvious area where we've done that is through medicine, is through believing our bodies are supposed to function a certain way and putting our belief also towards certain diagnostics. Okay, now I'm not here to come against medicine in any way. I am a medical herbalist myself. I do believe in the power of allopathic medicine for certain things. But I also believe one of the greatest tools for our health and our sovereignty and our awareness is actually being given the wisdom of how our bodies work on all planes. Because your physical body is not only connected to the material planes, your physical body is a reflection of how you exist on all the planes and what you're bringing into the material. Okay, so when we are programmed to believe things about ourselves, our bodies become record holders of those beliefs. And so through this full moon in Virgo, this blood moon lunar eclipse that we are still feeling the effects of, we have been being given the opportunity to rethink a lot of those contracts we have with our bodies, and to let go of all of the ways our bodies have become record holders for things that are not true. And one big way we've done that is through the story of genetic illnesses. Okay? And this again is not me saying that these things do not exist. They do exist. But they exist because of how we've contracted ourselves to the belief around them, but also very specifically how we've contracted ourselves to dissociate from our own bodies, to not know how our own bodies work, and to kind of allow for our bodies to be connected to these stories in ways that are not healthy. So our bodies were used against us in the false matrix to keep records of false stories and false timelines and false realities that are not a reflection of our infinite multidimensional truth, but are rather a result of our choosing limitation. Okay, so a lot of you, especially those of you who resonate with the possibility that the bloodlines you were born into through the false matrix, you were born into them through binding slave and slave contracts where, across time you've been incarnating into these bloodlines, not because they were the best beings to help you, like evolve on the soul level, but rather you were binded into their realities to be a scapegoat or to be a battery, is really what it comes down to. For those of you who have held that place within those bloodlines, you've also been one of the chief record holders for what passes through and becomes archived, for better or for worse. Now, in that position of power, what it allows for you to do is also be the one that wipes those records by doing it for yourself, which is why so many of them want to keep you stuck with them, want to keep you contained, because the minute you start to wipe the records that they need you to carry as their archivist, as their record keeper, their chief record keeper, as you wipe that out, you're literally wiping out a lot of the agreements that kept you financing energetically their ability to be in the false matrix or to do what it was that they were doing on the earth, that allowed for many of them, to either prosper, to have access, some of them just to even be here. They're here because of you and because of your codes, because, we won't go into that too much. But the point is that you've been an archivist for them, right? And this is because, in many ways, you are here to be an archivist. Many of you who've been misused in that ability, you've been misused because that's part of your source encoded truth. But what you actually are here to archive in your body and through your physical experiences are exactly what I said is coming back online for you. You're here to archive joy, peace, health, wealth, love, vitality. You're here to be an archivist for it so that those records remain running through the earth, so that you connect the earth with those records too. You connect other people with those records, and the ability to therefore also hold those energies, and very specifically the timelines that promote those things. Right? So the minute that you start to clear yourself of being able to be used in that way as an archivist of suffering, of pain, of false contracts, is the minute that you begin to break apart a lot of their false matrix contracts, right? So this is a big part of what that Virgo full moon is doing. Remember, understand and overstand also, Virgo is also very connected to liberation codes. Virgo is the sign that teaches you how to become free, to be who you are in your source code. That's why it is the Hermit card in the tarot. It's why the Hermit is actually the Grim Reaper, because Virgo teaches you how to utilize the power of death to bring an end and a close to that which will spoil your future harvest, which will spoil your own bodies of existence. Not just harvest like materially, but literally what you're here to produce and to grow and to multiply in and through you. Virgo teaches you how to maintain yourself, your energy, your system, your relationships, your contracts with your own body. Virgo teaches you how to do that so that you can continue to produce harvest in accordance with who you are and your source code, right? I was going to say something else about the Reaper. Virgo is also where the power of something coming from nothing begins to become more real, where things are able to come forth ex nihilo. This is why Virgo is called the Virgin, and it's connected to the Virgin Mary, who was said to bring forth Yeshua. It was a virgin birth. She was never touched by a man, which brings us into the whole discussion about parthenogenesis, which is possible. We won't go into that discussion right now, but Virgo is where we begin to be able to connect with being able to pull something out of seemingly nothing. Virgo is where we really begin to connect with the infinite nature of the womb for bringing forth life, but also for voiding it. Okay, so bear that in mind also, because this is how and why a lot of these old contracts that you had with your body, and oftentimes invisibly and unconsciously, they have the opportunity right now to die, to continue dying, especially as we get ever closer to this new moon in Pisces. And then as the sun moves into Aries also. Okay, as also dealing with the nodes, right? The south node in Virgo still moving through those final degrees to the 0 point over the next 6 months. It's going to be continuing to pull from your field what doesn't allow for the fullness of your liberation of you and your true source code. Virgo also, let's not forget, connects us to legacy. It connects us to our legacy codes. In the tarot, in the minor arcana, the cards of Virgo are the 8, 9, and 10 of Pentacles. The 8 of Pentacles begins to, I know in regular, tarot speak, it's about sitting down and getting to work. To me, that's not what it's about. The 8 of Pentacles is about when you push past what it is that you've been shown about yourself materially to get to the basis of how that's made possible in the invisible. Okay, so she's sitting down, she's connecting with her blueprints, she's connecting with her scrolls, she's connecting with the truth of who she is beyond just her material self. Right? When you get to the 9 of Pentacles, this is what allows for true independence and true wealth and value to be materialized. It's not through just sitting down and working. It's through the true knowledge of self, the true knowledge of how your system works, the true knowledge of what it is that you hold within your own archives of wisdom based upon your source code, and how you're able to utilize that, and how you're supposed to care for that, and how you're supposed to share it or not share it. All of that wisdom comes through Virgo, right? And then the 10 of Pentacles is how you actually begin to establish and to grow that legacy with the beings that you're supposed to grow and establish that legacy with on the earth. And the only way you're able to do that with another person is if you first know who you are and how you function and how to protect that within yourself, because only in that way will you then begin to align with beings who do the same for you and you do the same for them. You protect their codes, you protect who they are as they in their becoming also, and together your shared gifts, your shared codes multiply and don't only bring wealth to you together. Your very connection, your very alignment with one another brings wealth and joy and peace and vitality to the earth herself and to the timelines that are produced here. This is why I say to you guys so often, legacy is not about leaving behind children or leaving behind materials that you've written or having your name on a building. Legacy is your ability to is what you've left on the earth because you connected with your own source code, you nurtured that source code, you multiplied in that source code, and in doing so you left the earth in a better place than it was before you existed. Okay, so the 10 of Pentacles is that ability to do that with another. And the truth of the matter is that the earth remembers who you are, remembers the legacy codes that you left here before the false matrix. And through this South Node in Virgo, especially as we move through these next 6 months, as the South Node moves to that 0 degree point of Virgo, those legacy codes are waking up in the earth and waking up in you again. And this is partly what is allowing for your body to no longer be an archive and a record keeper for pain. That's why the false matrix targeted so many of you. That's why you were scapegoated. That's why you were binded into these families and into these bloodlines and siphoned and used as a fucking battery. Because literally, your system holds records like an archivist or like a point of reference. And so they had to shift that point of reference. They had to shift that archive into a library of suffering and struggle and pain. And they had to put you through those experiences continually. So that became what you grew and what you multiplied. But that's not who the fuck you are. It's not who you are. It's not who you ever were meant to be. And so now we're being given the opportunity, you're being given the opportunity, if you're resonating with this, for your system to once again be a holder and a keeper of what is sacred and what it is that you came to hold, what you came to multiply, what you came to experience so that others could experience too, and it would become a record in you and through you and in the earth herself too. So your body is becoming an archive for joy, for peace, for love, for health, for wealth, for vitality, because that's always who the fuck you've been, or you were supposed to be, before you were hijacked. Let's get into the cards. Let's get into the cards. I have a group session coming up. Well, I shuffle. I'm going to talk. I have a group session coming up this Sunday, March the 22nd. 7 spots are available. By the time of publishing, it should be up. So you can probably find the information in the pinned comment section. If not, it will be coming to the community board, okay, depending on when I choose to publish this. I'm recording it on Sunday, March 15th. Okay, so that group is going to actually be very centered on the recovery of, very specifically, remembering how our systems work. Okay, so we're going to be working together within the group space to remember how our systems work. And how your systems work are very much how your systems have been used against you. And taking back the knowledge of how your system actually is designed to work, it actually puts you in a higher place of power and self-possession, right? Because when you begin to see the sneaky ways your system has actually been used against you, but that actually is your code, then you can begin to take authority over using your system in accordance with your source code in more conscious and conscientious ways. 1717 on my clock. And that is exactly the goal right now, is that we not only know how our systems work in rhetoric, but that we actually begin to come back into such deep union with our source code and our system. So now we're living consciously and conscientiously, utilizing our gifts, our resources, and what our systems are designed to do on earth here in such a way where we are back in authority over self, instead of being used unconsciously or, not knowing how to move in our own energy. So that's what the focus of the group is going to be this Sunday, March the 22nd. It's going to be coming back into full remembrance of our systems. Okay. I'm going to do a 4-card spread. Oh, 2 want to come out in the first place. At the bottom of the deck, we have the 2 of Cups. Can you see that? The 2 of Cups. The 2 of Cups is Cancerian energy. So interesting, right? We have Jupiter having just gone direct in Cancer, but we had Jupiter going direct in Cancer at the 15-degree mark, which is actually the Three of Cups in the tarot. Okay, so the Two of Cups precedes the Three of Cups. It's the 0 to 9 degree energy of the 0 to 9 degree decan of Cancer energy. Okay, so what are the themes of Cancer? Because it seems that this Cancerian energy wants to speak right now. Cancer is how we begin to set our foundations, but it's very specifically connected not only to our cosmological foundations, but how we begin to bring that forth through us onto the earth, through ourselves, biologically and materially, and how we connect to the earth, right? That's the Cancer. The divine mother aspect of Cancer is connected to our biological mothers and our matrilineage on the earth for that reason. So the first meeting we have with the divine mother on the zodiac wheel is through Taurus, right? And Taurus is where we meet the divine mother in her greater cosmological expression, where we meet her almost as the feminine aspect, the feminine branch of source energy. That's through Taurus. But the divine mother, as she moves through Cancer, is how she brings that onto the earth through us. So very specifically through our mothers, through our matrilineage, through our connection to the earth. And so when we're dealing with Cancer energy, we're dealing with how we begin to connect with ourselves emotionally, right? And our ability to connect with ourselves emotionally is born through how we've been nurtured through the maternal relationship, very specifically, because it's obviously mother who we grow inside of. So a lot of our emotional code, our emotional bandwidth, our nervous system capability, it comes directly through the matrilineage, it comes through the mother. Even the ways that we are able to express energy biologically and physically, it comes through the mother. That's where we have that connection with the mitochondrial information that comes solely through the mother. Your mitochondrial function has direct connection with how you metabolize energy, how your body uses energy, right, on a physical level. So our relationship with ourselves is first forged with how we connect with our mother's emotional bodies. And the Two of Cups is where we are able to come back into the full union with the truth of who we are, so that we're able to hold the fullness of our identity. Where you see a lot of the time, and I've talked about this a lot, like 2026 being a number 10 year and being a year of Capricorn, but it's also a year because Cancer and Capricorn, they're sister signs, so they work on the same axis, they work together in a different way. So a lot of the themes of 2026 have to do with us becoming more embodied, have to do with us becoming more coming back into our bodies, but also healing our nervous system so we can hold the fullness of who we are. The false matrix knew what it was doing when it traumatized and fragmented us, because what trauma does and what fragmenting, that is the after effect of trauma, what it does is it breaks down the nervous system's ability to regulate. And a dysregulated nervous system can't hold big energy. It can't hold certain timelines. This is why so much of the false matrix was about siphoning, so it would give other beings a false sense of stability that they were taking from others. But it wasn't just taking the energy. Where was the energy going? It was going in a myriad of places, but one thing it was doing was it was regulating their nervous systems so they could wrongfully hold what wasn't theirs. What wasn't theirs. You know, how many of you are aware, and this is where knowing your system is gonna be important, you know? How many of you are aware that you are a stabilizing factor in many groups? That you bring stability. And here's the irony. The irony is that those beings who are stabilizing factors, who are able to hold whole timelines and situations together energetically are the ones in the false matrix who were oftentimes considered to be the most unstable. Why is that? Because you were constantly being plugged into and taken from. And yet people still come to you to be stabilized, right? I had that situation in COVID. I had a sibling call me at 3. I wasn't concerned about COVID at all. I wasn't concerned when they started shutting things down. I don't know. I just wasn't concerned. I was not concerned for myself. I did not fall into fear. And I had a sibling call me in the middle of the night who was having a complete breakdown, which I think was anxiety based. And then they're also asthmatic. And of all people to called me, 6 hours ahead, 5 hours ahead, or whatever, 2, 3 in the morning, my time, to just be with them on the phone. And why is that? And then they were fine after. And why is that? That's when it first really began to dawn on me, because that happens to me. That would happen to me a lot. People would make fun in my family of the fact that I wasn't as established as them and yada, yada, yada. They would like shame me covertly for that. And yet a lot of them were plugging into me to bring them a sense of stability. I would be the one who would be called when something was happening so that people could vent, or I was the stabilizing factor, so much that I wasn't able to stabilize myself. And even like when I look back into it and how, I was the first child to be born after my parents escaped war, and what that meant for my mother and what she was going through in her own reality. And then she gave birth to me. I really do I began to recognize a few years ago how much my nervous system has been used to stabilize other people in a myriad of ways, to the point where I was not able to find stability within and for myself. And so many of you are these stabilizing factors. And you're not only here, ironically, you're not just here to stabilize yourself, although that is the first and the core priority that you have to have, is to find stability within yourself and who you are, and to then begin to create that stability for yourself, because many of you are here to actually create the true stability on the earth again, through which source code flourishes, which is exactly why they wanted to plug into you, so that they could stabilize you, so that their false matrix initiatives could become regulated. Right? So the Two of Cups is where you begin to come back into true meeting with yourself, in order to stabilize your own energy field for what it is you're here to hold. And I've talked about this a lot before when this card comes out. It's not just about meeting someone who you are, like-hearted with, etc. No, it's about having that deep stability within yourself that then begins to open the door for Two of Cups energy exchanges, where you're not being plugged into to stabilize another person. It's two beings who are coming together in their own stability and nervous system capability. They're joining and they're magnifying and they're creating legacy on the earth from a stable template of sovereignty within their own power and source code that allows for them to multiply together. So the Two of Cups, for some of you in this reading, it very much can be about the recovery of your own sense of inner stability, something becoming more concretized through how you're relating and holding yourself. For some of you, this also could be the emergence of other beings entering your reality now, who are also in that same place, and therefore you are able to truly co-create from a place of oneness and sovereignty, so it becomes interdependence and not codependence, or dependence and siphoning, etc. Okay, in the overarching theme, 2 cards came out. Oof, I love it. We have the 6 of Wands and we have the 8 of Cups. Okay, so we've got some Wands energy entering here. This is Leo. This is Leo energy. And this is, I just, I'm connecting right now. The 6 of Wands is when we have that new moon in Leo. The new moon in Leo that is coming up with the total solar eclipse. That will be likely within the 6 of Wands decan. So the 6 of Wands is 10 to 19 degrees of Leo. Okay, so the 8-8 portal happens in the 6 of Wands. The 8-8 portal is normally around 14 or 15 degrees. The sun is normally at 14 or 15 degrees of Leo, give or take a degree either side, right? So yes, the 6 of Wands, this is something to do with the upcoming full solar eclipse in Leo. Then we have the 8 of Cups, which is Piscean energy, and it's the 0 to 9 degrees of Pisces. And the 8 of Cups, it speaks about all of the ways you have to begin to walk away from the things that you've emotionally attached to. And oftentimes you've emotionally attached to the things in the 8 of Wands because you never got, in the 8 of Cups, you emotionally attached to those things because you didn't stabilize in the 2 of Cups. Okay, so if you're not stable in yourself, and this is where Cancer energy also connects us to attachment theory and our attachment styles. If you're not fully anchored in self and you don't feel safe in self, then you start to seek security outside of you. And that's exactly how it was planned in the false matrix. The false matrix wanted you seeking security outside of yourself, false security, to keep you open to harvesting, to keep you vulnerable. Because whenever you as a source encoded being start to look outside of yourself for what it is you're supposed to be supplying yourself and through source, it's the minute you start to lose your protections, you start to lose your true source encoded boundaries that are designed to protect you. They start to come down when you start to move away from self. Okay, when you start to move away from source, right? So the 8 of Cups, oftentimes, those are the things that we have to walk away from, because even though they might have given us some semblance of happiness in some way, or we have sentimental connection to them, they are the things that we formed attachment with instead of attaching first to self and to source. Right? So 8 of Cups is often where we have to walk away from things that we've been depending upon in place of our true connection to source. And again, the false matrix was set up to do this. We were set up to do this very specifically. Mothers were set up to mother from a place of distortion and depletion so that they would continue to generate and regenerate that throughout generations. They would continue to create these cycles of depletion in their children, and then enter all of the social programming, the community programming, the schooling, the job. Everything that we were taught was what we were supposed to do in order to live and to thrive in the false matrix was ultimately built upon that original maternal foundation, that where mothers were taught to, they were taught to wrongfully mother their children, but very specifically, women were taught to abandon themselves for everything and everyone. That was intentional, because if they abandoned themselves and they became martyrs and servers and everything in the false matrix, it's actually Mother's Day, I think, today in the UK, funnily enough. Happy Mother's Day to those of you celebrating. But motherhood was designed to become an act of servitude. And a lot of the rhetoric around women being good mothers, it always has to do with how much a woman is able to sacrifice herself for her children and her husband. But that's not actually what motherhood is supposed to be. You're not supposed to sacrifice yourself for your children. You're not supposed to sacrifice yourself for your partner, your husband, your family. That actually keeps the sacrificial programming going and looping and regenerating. We're not supposed to do that, because if you sacrifice yourself continually, then you have nothing for yourself. So what are you actually giving people? You're giving them distortion. You're giving them distortion because you're not able to give fully from your overflow. So you're giving from distortion, right? So the Six of Wands and the Eight of Cups and the overarching theme. This is, again, I feel like certain things are being highlighted right now for what it is that needs to be walked away from. And I've just, I've been talking about this in a video I just did, a shorter video I just recorded, as well as I think I spoke about this in the full moon in Virgo. As we move from this last full lunar eclipse that occurred in Virgo towards the new moon in Leo total solar eclipse, which will happen when the North and the South node are at 0 degrees of Pisces and Virgo respectively, getting ready to move into Aquarius and Leo. This next 6 months is really about clearing from the field that which has kept us from being able to fully embody our source code, and not only fully embody it, but to be able to fully anchor ourselves in the belief system, the internal belief system also, that is necessary for us not only to hold it, but to walk in it and sustain it. And there's something about this Six of Wands and Eight of Cups energy that is highlighting this right now. And understand and overstand also, you're dealing with Leo and Pisces. So when you're dealing with Leo and Pisces, you're also speaking to, inner child. You're speaking to childlike energy returning. You're speaking to joy. You're speaking to the inner child coming back into full resonance. Pisces is how you begin to return to innocence, and you do that through also reclaiming your childlikeness, your childlike wonder, your ability to utilize your imagination. Now, Pisces is more how you connect with, the essence of being a child through the internal journey. Like I said, imagination, etc. Leo is more about how you do that through just not giving any fucks and expressing yourself, So there's something here also about the reclamation. And with the Two of Cups, like I said, at the bottom of the deck, the Two of Cups is about those original ways you are coded against yourself. So there's something about reclaiming what has been lost. Very specifically now, you might be going through a period of reclaiming so much of aspects of yourself that you haven't been able to come into full contact with since you were a child. And part of that, with this message about your body becoming an archive for joy again, part of this is because your own body shut that down. It shut it out. Somewhere along the lines, you learned that being who you are, expressing yourself in truth, was not safe. And most of the time you learn that from your mother, you learn that from your siblings, you learn that from family, you learn that from peer interactions with school. You learn how to shut yourself down because something about who you are and how you express yourself makes other people feel unsafe, and they turn that back around on you, and they make you therefore feel insecure in yourself. There's something about so much of that that's been lost that you didn't even fully remember or realize. It's been so far gone that it's not even an aspect of self you remember, let alone have been consciously trying to reconnect with, but it's coming back online. And a part of it is also, I feel like for some of you, it's going to be coming back very specifically through new interactions and exchanges with others, right? As you continue to walk away from those things, attaching yourself to things, to other people, um, from a need of like false security, like needing something or someone else to make you feel okay or safe in what it is you're doing, etc. We are here to co-regulate, but we're here to co-regulate from a place of already being rooted in ourselves, right? And so there's something about this co-regulation that's coming forth that allows for you both to be rooted in yourself. And this is going to help to unlock aspects of yourself that you've locked away that haven't been safe to come out, haven't been safe for you to expose even to yourself, let alone to another. There's something about your like you're coming back into relationship, deeper relationship with yourself, and possibly for some of you, like-hearted beings. There's something about this that is bringing the safety back into your system that allows for you to reclaim parts of self that you locked so far away that you didn't even remember those aspects of you existed. For some of you, this might even have to do with performance in some way. Take it as it resonates. Some of you, you are performers. You are artists. You are here to be very demonstrative in your creative expression. And as a child, you were dimmed, you were silenced, you were told either that you weren't good enough or that nobody is interested in what it is you had to say or to do, or you can't make money that way and it's a childish thing. Like you were fed a lot of bullshit to shut that part of yourself down, to the point where you've become an adult who just thought, oh, I was just being a silly child wanting that once upon a time because that's what children want. And for some of you, that's not the case. For some of you, your source gifts reside in that place. Whether it's like you're a singer, you're a dancer, you're a spoken word artist, you're a visual creator. You threw that part of yourself away thinking it was childish and that it was just something that you wanted as a child because you were being silly or you were easily influenced. But some of your literal source code, your source expression, how it is that you amplify your code on the earth, partly how you create legacy on the earth, it comes through that very specific expression. And it feels like you're coming into a place of feeling safe to do that again. Okay. In the challenge, we got more Leo energy. The sun. Well, with all of this stuff coming up and the sun and the challenge, this is exactly it. It's like because the sun denotes you're coming back into your solar code alignment through your true expression. So with the sun and the challenge, it's just like, where are you denying who you are because you've been wrongfully dimmed? And where are you now complicit in that dimming? Some of you are here to speak and you're afraid. You're afraid to speak, you're afraid to express, you're afraid to be demonstrative because of everything you've been through. But here's the thing, some of you, the only way that you're going to break through to the other side of all of this is by entering that aspect of expressing that aspect of self, because that's where the source code that brings back certain protections come also. And I was getting this message a few days ago, that specific message, and I wanted to come on it, but I was just like, oh, this message is a little bit redundant. But here it is again. And that was a specific, because I hear this message come through from time to time, you know, like you need to use your voice. But this message was very specific. It was like, you're not using your voice is actually keeping you in spiritual warfare you're not supposed to be in, because in using your voice and being more expressive and demonstrative, it will activate certain codes that bring forth protections that you need, so you stop fighting certain battles that you shouldn't be fighting anymore. In fact, a lot of the time, the reason the warfare around your expression and your visibility is so high is to keep you afraid. Some of you, just left ear, some of you, you need to reclaim your vibrance, your innocence, your shine, your expression. You need to reclaim it back from your mother. You had a mother who was really fucking critical to the point where it was just like, it wasn't even just her, um, it wasn't just her, like, in her own woundedness. She was downright malignant. She liked to see you. She liked to see you hurt. She liked to see you hurt. She liked to cause you pain. She liked to see you suffer. She was one of the main enforcers in making sure that you became a being who archived pain and suffering, because through her connection with you, again, the mother is the one that determines, um, you know, how you connect with yourself, how you know, love yourself, how you accept yourself, how you feel safe in yourself. That comes through, not only, you know, like pregnancy and being in the womb, which is a huge part of it too, but it also comes through how your mother nurtures you in your self-expression. And some of you, your mother, like, I'm sorry to say it, but she hated you. And the only reason I'm connecting with this so strongly is because I know this energy on a personal level. Your you're just being yourself and shining and enjoying life. It irked her soul in some way, and it's like the only way she would be able to get relief would be to take from you, so that you would feel, you would collapse into, complete self-rejection, but also complete despair. She liked to see you despairing. She liked to see you despairing. And a lot of the information you have running through your system that's still telling you that you can't or you shouldn't do something, it's not you, it's her. You've taken on that voice as being your own, and it's not yours, it's hers. And you need to give her back her opinions, her perspectives, her thoughts. And every way that she has shut down your system, you need to turn the fucking lights back on, because she did you a grave injustice, a grave injustice. And in doing so, she didn't only just do a grave injustice to you, she did a grave injustice to the earth and to humankind. To the earth and to humankind. Because in shutting you down, she shut down the source code that is here to activate in you, and for you to be used, for you to be able to broadcast that code to activate others and the earth. In shutting you down from being able to do that, she has shut you down from the ways you were here and are here to activate other beings in their source code too, and in their ability to be who they are in their truth, but also in the earth's ability to come back into source alignment. She literally binded your voice. She binded your voice, and she binded your expression. I don't know, some of you had a mother who would like pop you in the mouth or slap you in the face to get you to be quiet. There's something to do with like physically, something she did physically to also like, and it's something that maybe you've like forgotten and you don't think it's anything big, but your system holds the memory of when I speak, this is what happened, so I need to shut up. It's like you don't need her to do it for you anymore. You do it for yourself. What it is you need to be paying attention to. The Hierophant. The Hierophant. So we got two major arcanas here, two fixed signs, Taurus and Leo. The sun is Leo and the Hierophant is Taurus. Okay, those are the signs that show up on the Wheel of Fortune and on the world. They're the cards that define the beginning and ending of cycles, or the signs. Cycles die and are established through the fixed cross. Okay, the Hierophant, and what it is you need to be paying attention to. You need to understand and overstand that the very world itself is not only changing, but how do I say this? The world is changing rapidly. The world that once upon a time could not accept you and your expression, that world no longer exists. But simultaneously, that world still exists for you internally. But the way that you completely shut that world down within yourself and within the grander world at large is through your expression. There's something about how your ability to reconnect with this code of like full self-expression. It's not just your voice, it's the fullness of your self-expression. It's also about like I said before, this is about your body becoming an archive of joy, for joy again. It's like the more that you connect with the truth of who you are and you're able to express it, the more you're going to notice that the systems of the earth begin to change in response to. Because for some of you, that's how powerful your ability to be aligned and fully expressed is. And again, I want to take you back to that being the very reason why so many of you were specifically targeted to be archivists of pain and suffering and distortion in the false matrix, specifically like through their scapegoating programming, and for many of you through binding you to certain bloodlines so you would act as a battery for them. Like when you start to hold the truth of who you are, when you start to be able to become a record keeper through your experiences of joy, of love, of peace, of health, of wealth, of vitality, you're not only experiencing this for yourself, you are shifting things systemically. Literally, your ability to bring your system back into this code where you are an archivist, where you're archiving joy, peace, health, wealth, love, vitality, etc. Your ability to do that is what allows for the earth and her systems to come on board with that too. So I feel like the Hierophant also coming out here is like, you need to be aware. Some of you don't know the bigness of your energy. You might have a glimpse of it from time to time, but then you fall into doubt. And again, a lot of that doubt is still that fucking mother voice, Mother Gothel voice. You were downplayed and dimmed, so you would never see yourself in the truth of who you are. Um, and it's time for you to break that, to shatter it. That's the sun. The sun is like boom, illumination, but beautifully, like beautiful illumination. It's not the tower. The tower is illumination that oftentimes comes with complete destruction. The sun is illumination that comes and it brings with it oftentimes relief. The Hierophant is also, it's the card of union. Not necessarily, again, it doesn't have to be with another person, although for some of you, this might exactly be what it's about too. But the Hierophant is also the ultimate card where you are able to come into internal union for the purpose of creating, for the purpose of being able to create in accordance with your code. So whatever it is that you're here to create on the earth, you can't really do that until you come into oneness with self, until those principles within yourself that you've been at war with, for as long as you were at war within yourself, you could only birth distortion, you could only create brokenness. The Hierophant is when you come back into cohesion with self in such a way where you're whole enough to create from your source code. The Hierophant is where you come back into connection with the Divine Mother principle, who is able to overwrite the false mother coding, the false mother coding of the false matrix, and the false mother coding that came through your biological mother too. Guidance. Page of Wands. Pages are children energy again too. So we got all of this like Leo childlike energy and Piscean energy too, which is childlike. So the Page of Wands. This is, pages also denote where you begin to move forward based upon something that you've learned and you've gleaned through traveling that suit. So the Page of Wands comes after the Ten of Wands. So it's when you begin to travel with the fullness of the information from the Wand suit, from the Ace of Wands to the Ten of Wands, right? So the Page of Wands can also speak about something that you're returning to, that you have a lot of passion for, and that you started on this course once before, but you weren't able to continue on it. There's a path that's reopening for some of you, for many of you. There's a path that's reopening for many of you that you haven't been able to walk. And for some of you, again, with the Page of Wands, it's something that you were shut out of since childhood. For some of you, you've been shut out of it since childhood, but you've still been seeking to pursue it, but you've been being shut out of it still throughout your time, and it's being open for you to begin to walk through it clearly, because a lot of what was stopping you from being able to move forward was the fact that your system had been set into internal war mode, right? And there's something about you coming into cohesiveness with self now that is allowing for you to hold things that you couldn't hold before. And this is where you're shifting. Your body itself is shifting from having to hold these war timelines, from having to hold these warring narratives, from having to hold distortion, from having to hold other people's disdain towards you in order to falsely make themselves feel superior or more important. So your own relationship with yourself had to be severed. You had to see yourself a certain way so that they were able to continue to bypass truth. There's something about those internal ways that you were set to war within yourself, that it's closing out now to allow for you to be able to walk the path that was always meant for you, but it kept on being thwarted because it required for you to be in this Two of Cups energy with self. It required for you to be able to to find home in yourself, to be accepting of self. It required for you to be able to nurture yourself. It required for you to also be able to be healed from the way that your mother rejected you, from the way that your mother mistreated and abused you. It required for you to remember and to recognize and to know that the way that she treated you had nothing to do with who you actually are. And it's not what you actually deserved. It had everything to do with her own pain. It had everything to do with the things that she didn't want to see, she didn't want to resolve. And for the longest time, so many of you have been fighting in life because unconsciously you've been seeking for validation from your mother in different things. Like, even if it wasn't from her directly, you've been seeking validation from her in terms of how you show up in the world, and your internal compass and the way that you move in the world has been ruled internally from this need to, like, for her to actually love you and accept you and to not have treated you that way. And again, this is unconscious. It's not something that you're doing consciously. Like, many of you have, done so much work to heal. This is a deeply, like, it's even deeper than just like wanting your mother. It's like, it's that part of you that deserves, that part of each and every one of us that deserves to have been mothered properly. It goes beyond our own natural mothers. It goes deep within the maternal story of the earth, where it's like we all deserved to be mothered properly. We all deserved to be nurtured into our power and into our truth. And there's a part of you that, like, you've hit a point of, like, self-love and connection where it's like you have that again. You have that mother code. You might not have gotten it from your biological mother. You might not have healed anything with her, but you've healed the distance and the separation and the schism within yourself to the point where you have that mother code back. That true mother code you have back. I had some notes. Let me see if there's anything else. Your body is no longer a storage site for prosecution. Your body is no longer a storage site for prosecution. You held so many conflicting arguments in your field that it was really difficult to see who you were and difficult to form your own opinion outside of all of the debate. This is not only about you, though. This is about the Divine Mother herself, but it's playing out for many of us in our own realities too. Your body is now a treasury. It's a treasury. Okay, I'm going to close out with these words. My body is an archive for joy, peace, beauty, love, vitality, health, and wealth. My body no longer exists as battlefield, sacrificial altar, or courtroom. My pain is not the primary record here. My suffering is not the reference point here. I do not live by the archives of injury. I live by the living records of my truth, of restoration, pleasure, vitality, and source encrypted and encoded abundance. My body now stores what is mine to keep. My body now remembers what is beautiful. My body now references peace and expects love. My body archives health. It holds wealth without sacrifice. The era of my body being used against me is over. The era of my body being used against me is over. The era of my body being used against me is over. The era of my body bearing witness only to loss is over. I am the living archive of source encoded goodness made manifest. Okay. Alrighty, well, I will try to remember when I post this to also post a decree I did, I think back in November. It was something to do with body sovereignty. It came into my awareness again recently when I was getting ready, when I was like taking the notes for this. It came into my awareness. So I will also link it in the pinned comment section below for those of you who want to do that kind of work. I might do a whole separate decree concerning this energy too, but I will also post that on the community board if I do so. But in the meantime, I will bring your remembrance back to the decree I did about full like body and biological sovereignty in Sagittarius season. Okay, I did a decree last week. It's also available. It's on clearing out, frequency flooding, false simulations, certain targeting, being targeted by frequencies, etc. There's a decree for that. I had a very interesting story around that. Maybe I'll share it in the group space, but very interesting story that occurred upon reading that decree out loud last week. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you if you stuck with me this long. Please make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube thing. Share with like-hearted and like-minded beings though. If you would like to donate to the channel and to my work, you can do so through my Ko-Fi. That is ko-fi.com/Solarah Rises. I'll put the information for that in the pinned comment section below. If you'd like to join me this Sunday, March the 22nd, the information for that will either be in the pinned comment section below, definitely will come forth through the community section a few times this week until we reach capacity. What else? Yes, that's it. If you would like to work with me, all information for my services are in the pinned comment section below. You can also visit my website, solarah.info. You can also check out my Ko-Fi shop, ko-fi.com/Solarah Rises, where all of my decrees are, as well as if you would like to book for a soul recovery session or a tea time catch up if you're a former client. Or if you would like your own bespoke decree to be written on your behalf, information for how to do that is on my Ko-Fi shop. If you would like specifically a personal reading, then you can email me directly, solarahspeaks@proton.me. Alrighty, I will see you again when I see you. Until then, be well.